This is the Self-Storage Podcast, where we share the knowledge and skills from the industry's leading investors, developers, and operators to help you launch and grow your self-storage business. I'm your host, Scott Meyers, and over the past 16 years, we have acquired, developed, converted, and syndicated over 2 million square feet of self-storage nationwide with the help of my incredible team at selfstorageinvesting.com, who has helped thousands of people achieve greatness in self-storage. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Self-Storage Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Meyers, and at the time of this recording, we are on the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and as states are opening back up, I wanted to bring on our operations expert, Kathryn East, to discuss the new management procedures we are implementing in response to the various state guidelines and company rules on how to interact with our clients. Now, Kathryn owns her own consulting company and performs audits at our facilities, and she also guides us on implementing our best business practices for maximizing the performance of our stores, especially when rolling out a new marketing campaign. She also sets up our proper management structure that fits both the site and the market when we make a new acquisition. We nicknamed her the Wolf, a reference to the cleaner from Pulp Fiction, because she cleans up the messes at the facilities we buy, and she does it fast. Now, Kathryn is also a mentor in our education company who teaches our underwriting course, as well as the management modules in our mentoring programs. And in today's episode, we discuss the best ways to re-engage our clients as the economy reopens, but we really drill down on the importance of facility audits to measure a site's ongoing improvement. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Kathryn East. Hey, Kathryn, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Scott. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it more than you because I know your schedule is quite a bit busy these days. We've got you traveling all over, and so do some of your other customers. And so I appreciate you taking time out to tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there in the marketplace and what you're seeing at some of the facilities you've been visiting. Of course, you know, the pandemic and the COVID-19 and how we're handling that from an operations side is on everybody's mind. But why don't you talk a little bit about what you're seeing as you're heading into different facilities, different types of facilities across A, B, and C classes, as well as into multiple states, you know, what you're seeing that is different, or maybe even some good ideas that you're seeing in some of these offices as they open back up again.
So it's actually pretty impressive what I'm seeing as far as a willingness from our managers and our customers to still want to continue to rent from the facilities. So what I'm noticing is customers don't seem to be near as afraid of going to a storage facility as they would, say, the grocery store. Obviously, quite a bit less traffic. So if I'm looking at in my A-class facilities, they aren't seeing near as much traffic, but it's more because of the operational side of which it was, let's worry about, you know, how we're going to address the health conditions, make sure that our offices are always lined with tons of cleaning products, gloves, masks, things of that nature. And it seems like my A-class facilities have almost scared off some customers by doing that, whereas my B and C class facilities across the states have stayed open and just taken a little extra precaution, wearing masks if they feel uncomfortable, you know, definitely asking people to stay 6 feet away, making sure that as customers are sitting there, you know, they're not coughing on anything, cleaning up afterwards. They've seen an influx of move-ins. So as far as markets go, the more rural market, those secondary markets seem to be doing quite a bit better than the markets where there's, like, let's say Public Storage or U-Haul, and not to point them out, but they closed their facilities for some time because of this, which perfectly understandable, keeping customers safe, keeping their managers safe. Yeah, we've stayed open this whole time, and we've just seen a very great influx. I will say, as I've traveled from state to state, the differences in the laws in which we're passed to kind of keep everyone at home, the hashtag stay home, hashtag stay safe movement. What I've seen is now that a couple of states are starting to open up, I've seen the regulations drop completely. So it's been very interesting, even just seeing the difference to, let's say, Michigan to Wisconsin. So Wisconsin opened up last week, opened up everything. So everything's open now. And literally over the weekend, 5 rentals, just immediately. Just everybody started basically rushing to the storage facility. And the reasons that we're seeing is they're having to downsize. We're seeing a lot of downsizing right now. I'm sorry.
Interesting. No, that's interesting. Because that was going to be my next question, which is, you know, as you know, we've talked around here that we're probably just one good soundbite from the media away from people, not only, the states opening back up, but also seeing a demand in storage again and people getting back out again. And so I think we've seen a little bit of that even as the news nationally about states that are opening back up, that even in the states that aren't completely open back up, folks are going out being a little more, call it cavalier, but just, not realizing that, okay, isolation is not good. I am going to go to the grocery store. As long as I can get out and I'm not going to be stopped from going places, I'm going to do so. And not as many people wearing gloves and masks. And so I think, once the so-called wraps are off, then we know that there's just going to be a rush and a surge. But so what people are down. So, I assume that we were probably still several months off from seeing the effects of the 36 million people that are unemployed because money was still coming in and there was some assistance. But is that where the lion's share of the activity, the new leasing activity you're seeing is this the recession related activity, if you want to call it that?
I would say that answer is yes. That is what we're seeing. So as I've been speaking to the customers who have been moving in, they've been telling me that some of them, and it hasn't really been, okay, we live in a house and we're selling it, or we live in an apartment and we just need to get out of the apartment, or we're going to be evicted when this is over. That's not the answers we're getting. What we're getting is we realized having to stay at home for so long that we just have way too much stuff. So I would say 3 out of 5 of the people I've talked to have been like, yeah, we're gonna clean out our garage, our house, we're gonna store it in here, and then we're gonna gradually take it out and sell it on things like Letgo and eBay. Mm-hmm. So I figured, it might be a good time to buy some stock in Letgo because it seems like a lot of people are about to tear it up on there. But that's the answer is yes to that. That's exactly what we're seeing.
Well, we were pleased to see that Goodwill opened back up again because we got tired of driving by the Goodwills near our home and in our travels where there was, people don't want to throw things away. And if they didn't want to put it in storage or didn't feel it was worthy enough to do that, valuable enough, then they take it to Goodwill and there were just piles of items left out. But you're right. That's when you sit around your house all day long, you realize there's some things that need to be done and things that need to be purged as well. But let's talk about that. Again, we've gone through this cycle of the demand in the beginning where the colleges were closed and then people were sent home to work. And so they had to clean out areas in the home and make way for an office. But we haven't seen too much of the moving traffic, not necessarily downsizing, but, the normal spring traffic from people that are just moving in general. They plan to, upsize or do something different or move to a different location while the kids were out of school. So are you seeing much of that, or do you think that's still suppressed by the stay-at-home orders or just the economy in general?
Well, I do believe it's the stay-at-home orders and the economy in general looped in together. So with us having this COVID-19 outbreak and people being forced to stay home, some people, 36 million people losing their jobs, they're not really sure what's going to happen. So I believe what we've seen is just possibly a postponement of what their original plans were. I do believe people will still move. Yes, we are a couple months out from that. I think what we're going to see is an influx late in this season, which normally we would have, it would have already started. It would have started first week of March and then just continued on through. We would have been revving up, ready to go. And now I think we're probably not going to see that, which we did talk about a couple weeks ago. And I said, look, I think we're about 6 weeks out. At this point, I think we're about a month out. And I think we'll start seeing people, as long as we don't have the crystal ball prediction of there being an outbreak number 2 and then possibly an outbreak number 3. Then I would say in about a month, we'll start seeing that influx again of people going ahead and doing what they had planned to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly think if history is proven to be true, which it normally is, and it repeats itself, that not that we've had a lot of pandemics, but through the course of history, every time we've had that, then yes, round 2 is not far away, and it should be more severe than this one. So fully expect that by the end of summer. So we're treating this as if it's a window from our vacations and the plans that we make as a family, but then also for business. We are certainly planning for round 2 once fall comes in and the weather and call it flu season comes around, that we would be heading back into one of these again. But let's take a step back. Kathryn, we mentioned in your intro your role with us and your reputation that precedes itself as well, and we are thankful for that. But I wanted to to dig a little deeper in here, and for all those folks out there in Storage Nation that are listening that maybe either not knowing how to handle accounts receivable and the lien procedure and auctions, and maybe some of those that are still wondering what is the right thing to do from a PR standpoint or even from their own client base. What would you tell those folks? What are you seeing in the marketplace, and is there a pushback, and what are you telling the managers right now as to how to handle the situation right now, and then as we head into, again, the window of where we're seeing a little more demand and maybe things are looking a little bit rosier?
Yeah, absolutely. So when this all started, the first thing that we did across the facilities that I work with, and what I've seen in general, is we're not forgiving rent. That's not where we're at. But what we are doing is on a case-by-case basis, we're evaluating the situation and deferring, kind of like the banks are doing. So we're working with them because we know that 36 million people being out of work is no joke. And a lot of them are in the customer service industry or the restaurant industry. And those people are great, loyal clients to us. So we are not in the business of charging them late fees. So we're not until we know that they're back to work. Then we expect that we'll pick that back up. So what we've done in our sector of things, in the companies that I work with, is we have told clients that have contacted us and said, hey, I have been laid off due to this. I mean, if they were good clients in standing before, they're still going to be good clients in standing after. So we are working with them as diligently as possible to make sure that they not only keep their items, because we're not going to hold an auction for somebody who was affected by a pandemic. As far as auctions go, I have facilities that are still doing auctions currently, but they're on tenants that were 90 days past due when this all started. So for those out there who are worried about, what to do as far as PR goes, here's what I would say. Definitely work with your clients who are good clients, because they are your bread and butter, period. We're not here to collect auction fees. We're here to rent units and keep our customers in those units for as long as they want to stay and as long as possible on our end. So when you're thinking about that from a PR perspective, definitely handle it on an individual case. I wouldn't send out a letter to everyone stating, look, we're forgiving all your rent for 6 months. That's not what you do. But you do need to maybe inform your tenants that, hey, we know that you could be affected. If you are, get a hold of us. Talk to us. Stay in contact with us so that we're consistently updated on what's going on in your life so that we know how best to work with you. If you have tenants who are gumming up, and that's a good phrase, gumming up your pipeline with late fees and charges from before this happened, go ahead and have your auction. There's nothing wrong with that. Not even absolutely. I firmly do not believe you will get a bad reputation for selling someone's items that should have been sold 6 months ago regardless. But yeah, we are definitely being very careful of what we say and how we say it, which any good manager would be either way. And we're working with people one-on-one.
Yep, I think we don't need to apologize for doing good business, but I know that there's an awful lot of folks that may be a little bit leery of that. But for the most part, as you've seen, they're probably the same people who even before all of this were too friendly and friends with some of the clients, and they weren't willing to get their teeth out a little bit and say, hey, it's time. So, and let's not forget, we have our folks out there that make a living out of auctions and buying these units up and then selling them on eBay, which was born out of the last recession and created such a fervor. Those folks need to eat as well, so we just need to continue to supply auctions for them. But let's other than that, Kathryn. So again, the operations side of storage is fairly static. I mean, it's just doing good business and hitting your marks. Doing the basics and doing it really, really well. It is somewhat of a predictable business model, but in this time that we're in right now, what are some of the unique opportunities that you see that managers can be doing at the store level that owners could be doing at a more strategic marketing level, to make sure that we put the best product out there in the marketplace, and maybe touch on or phrases or ways to market to, again, not take advantage of the situation, but just different ways of thinking that we really need to be on, or opportunities that you see in the marketplace right now to allow us to really thrive during this time.
So I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because I have been working with some managers on a manager level to try and connect with them to teach them how to better understand what we call the SEM side, which is social engine marketing side of the business. Because to me, a manager is the one who actually sits in your facility, runs your facility on a day-to-day. So they ultimately know best what is happening right there in that market. They're seeing it every day. So I like what we've been able to do with all of this happening, because we've been able to kind of step back and say, hey, manager, here's what we need you to do. We need you to research what it looks like to actually do your job. And it's been almost, I don't know the word to use, Scott, but it's been very enlightening to see these managers really step up and say, you know what, I do have the time right now to make sure that I know how to do my job efficiently. And from an operations level, I've had all of my managers, with the exception of one, just because they're too new to do this, but I've had them regroup and go back to their operations manual, add in the SEM section, and review the other sections that are involved as well for best practices. So it's not to say that we're not busy, we are. But this is a perfect time for managers to have that understanding of what their expectations are. From an owner's perspective, there's no better time than the present to get your projects done. Just get them done. From an economic standpoint, just like you said, the auction people got to eat too. So do the lawn care people. So do the roofing people. So do the interior painters. If you've got a project for that, construction workers, all of those people need to eat too. And while you're able to possibly maybe get deferred mortgage payments or something of that nature, there's no reason why an owner should not be looking at that. Operationally, great time for an owner as well to look at their contracts and start reviewing them, from their phone bill to their electric bill, see what that's trending as. All of these things are pertinent to a business as it is. Now's the best time to look at it, because there's so many companies out there that are willing to work with you on those. So that's what I've been seeing, and it's been great to actually be able to do that.
Well, and we're thankful that you have been able to do that. And so, as you know, we've been embarking on several projects at different locations, some that are just naturally in the pipeline and transitioning over from previous owners, or opening up the doors and going for, right after a certificate of occupancy. But those projects, I think this whole time has really created a sense of urgency in all of us. Around here, we've sensed that, we've realized that, we know that now's our time to shine with private equity partners, looking to get into storage. We know this demand is coming up, and at the same time, some of our properties are experiencing a little less traffic, and so we've known that we need to double down in all areas. And that we've had to, go back to retraining our managers, tightening up our operations, looking for additional opportunities, and really looking beyond, just the temporary and what is going on right now, to make sure that we're retooling and then rolling things out, across the entire portfolio. We have had the luxury of having some of the SBA funding come through, as well as some PPP forgiveness, and so we've been able to keep things rolling. And at the same time, we haven't had to lay off, as or downsize or trim back hours at not even 1 hour at any of our facilities, which has been a blessing, but also a sign that, once again, storage just does well during a recession. And, we are dedicated to not only our employees, but making sure that we are available for our folks. And so, we're just genuinely excited. Yes, there's a lot going on, and this, maybe the sense of urgency has been created from within, but, call it a different situation, or maybe even time to be able to do some of these things. I don't want my competitors to get ahead of me in any one area. And we want to make sure that, we are just the strongest that we can possibly be in all areas. And so if anybody listening out there hasn't felt that right now, Don't wait until your competitor begins to get a foothold and they're doing those types of things, or that you're caught, behind the eight ball when we have this second round. So getting the SEM in place, getting your marketing in place, and if you don't have a marketing plan, get one, and then change it once a quarter, and continue to train your people and invest in them. And that is one of the best investments that you could make. So, other than that, what else, perhaps, Kathryn, some of the mistakes that you've seen, which could be just, the opposite of what we talked about, people not doing that, but are you seeing any missteps by owners out there right now, or even the managers behind the counter, that may not be handling the situation or the times that we're in right now in the best manner?
I have. So I've had the luxury of being able to audit a few facilities during this time. Fortunately, they haven't been yours, Scott. So that's been a good thing. Because if I'm auditing your facilities right now, I know what's going on.
Good. That's good
But
to
I
hear.
have, yes, I have walked into a few facilities over the past 2 months that I have seen managers. I won't say owners, I will say managers, because typically if I'm meeting with an owner, it's not to critique what they're doing or not doing as far as because they're not really in front of the customers. But the managers that I've seen in front of the customers that seem to be making huge mistakes, to me, obviously, is bringing up the COVID-19 to the customer. I think that just puts a negative spin on the whole process of trying to rent a unit. Now, on the other side of that, we're talking about mistakes, but hold on. I had a manager who actually posted on Facebook, who's talking about COVID-19. We're talking about cleaning 19. And as weird as it sounds, it actually worked. She got several referrals from that post. So I was very surprised. She just took it upon herself to post it. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like that. Didn't steer well at first, obviously, because if you bring up the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic, then we have to talk about the negative side effects. Nope, she took a positive spin on it, which was great. I've seen a lot of offices that, unfortunately, whether it be on the manager side or the owner side, somebody did not care that there was a pandemic going on. So I've seen managers who are not wearing face masks. And I'm very firm on, if you feel more comfortable wearing one, by all means wear one. What I don't want are managers getting sick. But I also heard an owner actually tell a manager that he wasn't ordering them because he didn't believe that there was a pandemic. And so that was interesting as well. The mistakes that I see out there are generally on the manager side. And of course, I have seen bad owners, and I say bad owners because they're just owners who either they don't understand how to run their business, or they don't care to know how because they have a manager in place. And what I see a lot of mistakes being done is it's the communication and the correlation between the relationship of an owner to a manager. And when you have that breakdown in the relationship and you're not involved enough in your manager's day-to-day runnings of your operations, you see a lot of big mistakes. Dirty offices, paperwork's not right, conversations are being had in an office that should never be had with a customer, period. You see even bigger mistakes. They're starting to waive things for people. It's a snowball effect. Once it gets started, that's where it goes. And I am seeing that on quite a few audits.
Yeah, there's, as we've said before, that this booming economy that we have had for the past 10 years now, now that has come to a screeching halt, is going to separate the wheat from the chaff. And those owners that have had, this huge win in their sale at their back for this amount of time, and have seen great success in storage, and they haven't kept an eye on their manager, or they've had a poor manager in place, and still were able to do just well. Well, I think that party has ended now, and we're going to see those folks that are treating their business as a hobby, and maybe not even as that, as a passive investment, and not investing in their managers or even looking at their numbers, their P&L from time to time, or setting any kind of strategy for those folks. Those are the ones that eventually we may be buying from them. And so, folks, once again, stressing to you out there, if you don't have a plan, the market will have a plan for you. And now is the time to make sure that you put that in place. It is time to double down. This is our time in the storage industry to shine. All eyeballs are on self-storage, as an investment asset class that does extremely well during a recession. It is very recession resistant, not recession proof. Nothing is. But those folks who thought it was recession proof when they got into it, and those owners who feel that that nothing will happen poorly if they run their business poorly are going to find that out very quickly. So if that causes a little anxiety in yourself, then perhaps it is time to then have somebody audit your facility and make sure that you are dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. So Kathryn, if you would, why don't you go through, and that's a detailed checklist. And so we don't have time in our podcast to go through an audit and what you do when you go out on site. But if you would, touch on some of the main areas and then the overall goal of when somebody hires you to come in and perform an audit at their facility.
Of course. So the very first thing, it takes 2 days to do an audit, and that's on site. The first day, your primary focus is on what resources they have, how they're utilizing them, websites, how comfortable is it, how efficient is it, how can the customers use it. So literally your first day is spent just going over everything that they have as far as outside communication with customers. Can they rent a unit online? If they can't, can we make that happen? What do their gate systems look like? How does it look in their computer? What type of software are they using? Is the software running accurately? I can't stress that enough. I've seen a lot over the past 2 years with auditing to where I've gone in, and it's unfortunate, but someone who's running it doesn't understand what the benefits of that software are. So unfortunately, they're just not being utilized to their full maximum potential, which honestly, that's what you're paying for. So you need to learn it. So my first day is and of course, having a very detailed discussion with the person that's on site to see how happy they are in their position, what they would like to see changed, what is their workflow. Give me a daily checklist of what you do. How do you perceive your day to look? And of course, overall cleanliness and curb appeal. So if we're talking about it, if we're doing it in a checklist form, it's going to be systems, then paperwork, then curb appeal, then manager. First day spent all on that. The second day is what I lovingly like to call our maintenance audit. That audit is where we actually take a full rent roll, go out and check every single unit. If it has a lock on it, that's great. If it's late, it better have a red one on it too. If it says it's available, I'm opening up. I want to know that there's nothing in it and it's ready to rent, which means it's swept, walls are clean. If there's a ceiling, it's clean and maintained and it's ready to rent. That means a customer is walking up to it because I'm going to show it to them because I'm the one renting them the unit, and they can open the door and it's beautiful, ready to go. Then of course there's the unavailable side. Yes, sir.
Kathryn, if I could, I want to interrupt you right there before you go on. I could ask a question at the end about, what do you find in all of these? But that piece right there, when you do the audit and you're matching up leases with locks on doors and then red locks, what percentage of the time would you say that is off, that it doesn't match when you perform an audit?
95% of the time.
And by what percentage is it off by?
Usually 40 or more.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's bad. It's pretty bad. Because usually what I see is in the system, it'll say that it's available, and I'll go to open the unit and there's something wrong with it. The latch is rusty or bad, or the door doesn't open properly, or it opens too properly, which means it almost bangs you in the head. Or there's a leak in the unit, or there's a tear in the ceiling, and it's a mess. And I'll ask the manager, why isn't this in an unavailable status with these notes in it? Oh, well, it's a maintenance unit. We'll have to get it figured out. I mean, for me, that's not a good enough answer. And I tell people that I don't play around with my answers. I want a direct answer and I want a direct solution. I want to know what you're going to do to improve upon the fact that you're 60% wrong on your walkthrough. And that tells me a lot about a manager. It's whether or not they took the time to actually do their job correctly. So yeah, I see a lot of deficiency in that area, that's for sure. And it does take a full day because of it, because I have to document every single one of those issues. But we don't just deal with that. We also deal with the property itself. So drainage issues, if there's any, roof issues, landscaping issues, all of that gets considered. Then there's number 3, which is a financial audit. The financial audit can actually tell us a lot about who's paying attention, who's paying attention to the profit and loss statements and what's being spent. If you ask me what percentage of that I find to be wrong, yeah, it's about 95% as well. How much are they off? $30,000. Usually they're overspending per year.
And that's on what size of a facility?
About 250 units.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's
not a
pretty
huge
considerable
facility, but when I go through their profit and loss statements and I see the areas where money is being spent, it just, again, like you said earlier, a lot of times it's just that no one's been diligent enough to actually look at those profit and loss statements for a while. And so, of course, it's just gotten out of control.
And no matter what cap rate you use right now, that's anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in value that is lost by the NOI being eroded by $30,000. And so I'm assuming, Kathryn, that your fee for coming in is not $251,000 to perform an audit at a facility, correct?
And it's not $30,000 either. Keep going down.
Yep. What are some of the other gotchas? Or I guess the next phase, you talked about the financial side. So what else?
So once we get done, so we've got our internal audit. So we've audited our paperwork, our websites, our social media, our manager. Then we've done our maintenance walkthrough to capture that image, see what we need to do there, especially with curb appeal. I'm big on that. And then we do the financial audit. And it usually takes about 5 to 7 days for me to get it all back to someone, just because I go into a lot of detail, and especially when it comes to that financial audit side. Because again, that tells me a lot about the owner and the manager. And I have had a couple of audits over the past year that have said, okay, I don't know how to run this better. Maybe I should sell. And I said, well, maybe you should. I mean, or you can hire someone like me or someone in this business, third-party management company that you can reasonably trust, or someone like me, a consultant, to come in and fix it for you. Let's just fix it and then show you how to actually work through those processes to make sure it's maintained, which means going through those audits at least once a quarter.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it's the folks that treat this as a hobby that don't do well versus walking the four corners of your business and doing it on a regular basis, monthly financials, and then really doing a deep dive once a quarter into everything, changing the marketing plan, developing one if you don't have it, changing that marketing plan once a quarter, and then determine what is the overall goal for this facility this quarter. Is it driving revenue? Is it driving occupancy? And how are we going to achieve that depending upon what we decide upon? So.
Well, and Scott, as you very well know, the marketing piece is not, I mean, we've had great success with your facilities, changing that up and making it work for us instead of us working for it. Mm-hmm. So it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time to learn it.
Yeah. Well, you can take control of it or feel as if you're a victim to the market. It's not like a lemonade stand where you put up a sign and hope somebody comes by and buys it. You can do outbound marketing and make sure that you are also seen where everybody is looking for self-storage, and then continuing to tweak that and measure it. And that is at the end of the day, that is the ball game. This is a commodity. And the person who answers their phone and is able to rent units and do it online or make reservations and make it absolutely seamless and easy for the customer from the first contact when they're looking at your facility and your website on a smartphone, those are the ones that are going to win. And so there's a lot that leads up to that. However, you have to be seen, and you have to make sure that you respond and reply and make it really simple for those folks, or they will go on to the next.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And if there's podcast listeners out there that really aren't interested in paying attention to those types of things, I'll be happy to come out and look at their facility and see if we can get that sold for them.
Well, and as we wrap up, that's a perfect segue, Kathryn. So why don't you give the folks out there the best way, your best contact information for them to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, obviously you can get a hold of me through Scott Meyers and Self Storage Investing. I am a coach and mentor with them. But also you can email me directly at Sopapta21. So that's sopapta21@gmail.com. A long acronym, don't ask. But you can also text or call me at 314-596-6542. I'd be happy to answer questions for anyone who has them out here.
Okay, perfect. Well, Kathryn, as we wrap up, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out. We appreciate all that you do for us and our facilities, and our clients are the better as a result of that as well, for the folks that come into the facilities after you turn them around, and our managers for all that you breathe into them. So we appreciate that. We appreciate all that you do.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, that's for sure.
So as we part for the day, do you have any words of wisdom or maybe even a crystal ball prediction for where we're headed in the next several months here? You take your pick.
So I'll do both. So the first one being, if you put your money into it, pay attention. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And as far as crystal ball projections, that's a good one. I do predict that this year, with all of this going on, I will say over the next 12 months, we are going to see quite a few existing facilities being sold very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree. And we've been preparing for that as well. So once again, Kathryn, thanks so much for your time. Be safe out there and look forward to seeing you very soon.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. Now, we're going to be talking about topics like this that are on target for the times that we find ourselves in. So it is important that you are listening to this podcast every single week, because the guests that I'm going to be bringing on and the topics we will be covering are relevant to what we are all going through right now. And it's just going to get better and better and better in terms of the content that we are going to be discussing, and it's going to be more timely than ever. So please, make sure you subscribe to the show and make sure you're paying attention to these episodes as they are coming out during this period, as I am specifically going out and finding guests who are providing really valuable information you need right now. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week.